what I'd like to do is I'd like to start the program by showing a series of slides on how we constructed our own chicken coop. Back in 2015, my son Anthony, who's sitting here with me right now, asked me if he could have a chicken coop at the farm. And I said, I'll do some research, and if we'll build one. And if you take care of them and you maintain it, I'll build it. So I found online that at that time there was a man who had built one, and he had a video, and I can't find it anymore, but it was called My Little Red Chicken Coop. So what I did was I modeled my coop on that one because I liked the design, and I liked that it was self-contained, where the run and the coop are all one unit. So I didn't have to worry about free-ranging the chickens unless I was there because of the amount of predators, especially up in farm country. I have everything from coyotes to bobcats to hawks, you name it, we've got it, foxes. So we don't let them out unless we're there. Most times they're in their run, which is spacious, and they have a lot of room. There's a ratio of chickens to square footage that you keep that Anthony will tell you more about. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a share screen, and I'm going to show the construction of what we did. And then I'll talk a little bit about where you can probably purchase a kit or something of that type, or if you have any kind of carpentry experience and you want to try to build one on your own, it's not that difficult. So I'm going to share the screen right now. And okay, share. Okay. So right here, everybody see the photos? Okay. So what I have here is we live down here in New Jersey in Cedar Grove. So what we did was we built it down here, and then what I did was I transported it in sections and put it together up there. So here I have some photos of us doing the partitions and the parts where the windows will go, where the door will go. And I had it up on a base. I built the base here. I numbered everything and lettered everything, so I knew when I got up there, I would be able to put it back together and it would look good. And what I did up there at the farm was I built a base for it. When we made our section is 6 feet by 12 feet, wasn't it, Anthony? I think 6 by 12. And what I did was underneath, I put gravel, but underneath there, I put 3/4 exterior plywood, and I put, what is that cloth called? Hardware cloth underneath it, so no animals can burrow in. And I leveled it off using cement dust and item 4 cement dust. And I leveled it, and I put a cinder block in each corner and in the middle, so that this way it was all level.
And this is very important because the predators will have no problem digging.
They will have no problem digging.
Hesitation.
But this one should go first, where you can see it's self-contained. And then what I did was I put the fill and the claws on top of it. And then from there, I assembled the base that I had. And because the chickens this way, not only will they have room in this run, they will also be able to go underneath it because it's about 2 feet off the ground. So it gives them a lot of space between inside the coop and outside the coop. They have enough space to roam around during the day. So then I assembled it, and I put the platform on. Again, I used just regular fir, inexpensive fir and Douglas fir and spruce lumber that I purchased at Home Depot. And I didn't get anything that was treated because I didn't want to have anything with chemicals in it. The only things that were treated were the posts. But I tried to stay away from any treated lumber that would come into direct contact with the birds. So I would only use untreated, and then we would just give it a coat of boiled linseed oil and natural mineral spirits. And then what I did was I started to assemble the partitions, the sides. You can see the 2 sides that were down that I showed in my first slide. Then I made the end pieces and the nesting boxes, which are on the right-hand side here. We put in 4 boxes, which is quite enough for the amount of hens that we have. We have about 10 to 12 hens at any given time. And I continued to frame it in. And what I did on the roof, I didn't worry about putting too much lumber because we put a steel roof on, a corrugated steel. And it's because of the weather up there and the snow and the snow lows and the wind, it's better than putting shingles on. So that's what we did there. And again, I sheathed it in textured 111, which is an exterior plywood that is impervious pretty much to all types of weather. And we give that again a coating of linseed oil and mineral spirits. But now I think we're going to paint it because we'd like to have a little more color in there. So this is all what we did, putting it together. And then after we assembled the actual coop itself, we started to build the run. So the run is this section that you see here, and the steel roof is on. We went all the way with the steel roof. And then on the run and underneath where the chickens would go, we put 2 layers of chicken wire, double layer of chicken wire. And what we did was we actually screwed the chicken wire in with pieces of wood, so this way the animals cannot burrow into it. So we put partitions across, underneath, and this way the chicken wire goes all the way up. And we put a door on so we could have access to go in, to clean out, to change the fill that's there. We put a combination of soil and wood chips and things of that type, leaves, things that they like to burrow in.
One of the best things besides topsoil, and then you can usually get the excess wood shavings from tree companies. They're usually very eager to get rid of them, and they're for the most part very clean, and the birds enjoy them. And they're usually free since the companies have to pay to dispose of them. They'll usually give them to you.
Give it to you. So and then we have a picture where we put in an automatic door, which is no pun intended, but it's called a pullet shut after the word pullet, which is a young chicken. And the door is run by battery and solar. And the door, you could program the door to open at a certain time in the morning and to close at a certain time at night. And the chickens become easily trained and acclimated to doing this. One of the reasons being that when at night, or as soon as dusk comes in, they all want to get a great place on the roost to sleep at night. So a lot of times they go in before it's even too late because they want to make sure they secure their position. So, and then what happens is we have it set for 8 o'clock. The door will close at 8 o'clock. If for some reason one hen gets left out, after a minute or so, the door will open again, stay open for a minute or two, and then close for the night. And then it opens up again at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. This is a view from the back. We also have a door going into the back so we can clean out the interior of the coop where there's the roost, and then we keep a watering can. We use 5-gallon watering cans, 5-gallon feeders, so that they can have enough food and water for 4 or 5 days. We have 2x2 windows on each side to allow for ventilation, even though there's a vent cap on top. And we can take the eggs from outside. We put the nesting boxes. We put a cover so we can actually go in without disturbing them too much and take the eggs. And this is of it when it's in full operation. Everything is there. The chickens are in there. This is the door is open, and we have one of our hens showing you how she stands in the doorway. And which one was that?
And for the record, the door is great because it really helps with, if you have a job, you have to leave before a certain time, and and whatever chickens you buy, it's going to work. This chicken was actually very large, maybe too large, so it worked for all of them, and it just helps so much with ensuring that they get the time outside which they need.
That's right, and it's funny because in the morning if we're there earlier than the door is opened up, they're all waiting by the door for the door to open up so they can all come outside, and it's really funny to watch that. But they all have their own personalities. Some of them are really funny, and they're very clean. We have which Anthony will show you more about, a roost box where they tend to do their business at night while they're on the roost. So the inside the coop stays relatively clean, and so does outside in the run. And what we do is the roosting box, it's removable, and we take it out and we add it to the compost pile for our trees and for our fruit trees and everything. So we can use and we put wood shavings in there, and it's very good.
Just go to
Yeah, I have
do
to.
the picture for it.
Which one? The roost?
Or the roost box.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'll have to look and see. I think I do have it. Yes, I do have the roost box. Let me find it. Yeah, here it
Just
is. Okay.
continue with the-
Yeah, I can. Okay, let me go to screen share, and I'll show the roost box. And here is a good shot of the roost box. And again, all the girls vying for a position in the roost, and they sit up on this top little ledge here. And this roost box is about 5 feet long, and they all want to get in a position where they can be in a nice line. And we try to keep it very clean inside. We use hay on the ground, inside on the floor, and with some wood shavings, right? And we once a month or so, we clean it all out and we change it. It's very important to keep that clean and change because you don't want to get mice in there.
And one note for the building: make sure to avoid insulation. We had one friend who tried putting insulation in the coop because they thought the chickens couldn't handle the winter. However, it just turned into a rodent townhouse, to use a nice word. The chickens are completely capable of staying in the coop as long as the coop is dry and they're sheltered from the wind. They're completely fine. Their body temperatures are over 100 degrees at any given time, plus all the feathers. So actually, the insulation can cause more problems than help.
Yeah, they could actually overheat in the winter. So you don't want, as long as, like Anthony said, they're out of the weather, out of the wind and the cold, out of the wind and the rain. They're fine. And we've had them for 5 years now, and they've gone through four winters in 5 years.
Very harsh winters.
And they're very
happy.
Hardy. They're very happy, and they're very good at producing the eggs for us. So one of the things I'd like to touch on is, like, how do I build a coop? Well, there are places that I would go. I would not get a pre-made coop from.
So basically, any of the pre-made coops from Amazon, small kits, which usually are $200 to $300, they're very poorly made. It's kind of like the cheap furniture you buy on Amazon. Nothing fits. It never goes together, and it's disappointing.
Very flimsy.
We had one lady who we knew through our CSA program, and she bought chickens, and she bought one of those, but she actually built the coop that we're showing because a bear actually was walking through her yard and ripped the side off because they're very flimsy.
Took the whole side right off.
It's just wood board. It's very cheap.
Fiberboard. I suggest that you go to a shed maker, a place that sells sheds, and sells.
Sometimes you can even go to if you're in an agricultural area, you can also go to. There are some places which will actually build farm buildings. And we'll do coops and things for horses.
And they'll make them pretty much the way we did. It's what we did was labor intensive, but I wanted it to last a long time. And it has, it's on its 5th year now. We started it in 2015 in the spring. And so it's 5 years plus, and it's hardly shows any weathering because we take care of it. And again, like I say, there are places that you can go, like some supply houses that have agricultural supplies will tend to have pretty good chicken coops. There's one in Sussex County, in the town of Sussex, called Farmside Supply, and I can send the link later on to them. And they build very nice coops, very, very sturdy. And they usually show at the various poultry shows, for example, the Sussex County Fair or any local county fair. You'll find a lot of these purveyors there, and they usually bring samples with them, and you can see how they're done, and the construction is very good. But if you have the wherewithal and you have the time and you want to do your own, it's it's fun, you know.
And you can really make sure that it works for your needs.
For your needs. This one worked for our needs. We didn't want anything that was too big, and it is expandable. If we want to make the run bigger, we can expand that out, and we can go out the back. If we want to go a little further and make it bigger, we can go the other direction. But right now we're satisfied. We have a dozen. Right now we have 10, I think, hens, but we've had up to 12 or 13. They lay about an egg a day.
An egg a day in summer.
In the summer.
They do take breaks. As they age, they might become a little less productive, but They are the healthier they are, the better their environment really is, the more productivity you get in the long run.
You get. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Anthony. He's going to show you a bunch of pictures on the, let me find them, on the different types of breeds that we have.
Hey, Anthony, before you start talking specifically about the chickens, do you mind answering a few questions?
Oh,
about
sure,
them?
absolutely.
I just was looking at the chat. Okay. Addison asked where you can purchase the door that you have for your
we will send you the link for that too. It's a company called Pull It Shut
the
Pull It Shut company in Texas. So we will provide all these. If I was there, we were doing this live, we would have the handouts. But what I'll do is, like I did with the last talk, we will send you all the PDFs and you can give everybody.
Okay, great.
We have publications, we have magazines, we have everything here.
Okay, awesome.
There's a lot of automatic chicken doors, but a lot of them are very cheap. The Pull It Shut is just one that it costs a little more up front, but they'll guarantee it for, I believe, 5 years.
There's a 5-year guarantee.
And it's always worked.
Yeah.
Others have problems.
Others have problems.
A lot of problems. So.
This one's made in the USA. The motor is good. They give you the solar panel that you put outside. Now you can either have a battery and electric. If you have electric in it, you can plug it in. We have a solar battery. We do have electric in there, but if the power goes out, you have that solar. And we've used it for 5 years. And it's all steel construction, and it's made here. They're made in Texas. They're not made overseas.
And we've never had a failure.
Never had a failure in 5 years with them.
That's great. Another question was, someone wanted to know how you prevent water from freezing in the winter, the water for the chickens.
Okay, very good question. We have a heated base made out of galvanized steel with a heating element in it. And we put the 5-gallon can on top of it, and that has a thermostat. So the minute it goes to freezing, the thermostat kicks on, and it keeps the water from freezing. So you do have to have electric for that. That's for sure.
Okay.
And then it's a cheaper alternative of the water with the base that heats, but we wouldn't recommend that because it had a lot of problems.
Yeah, we had a self-contained unit and it leaked and it was terrible.
So the base is worth the money.
The base is worth the money. Separate base from the can. But yes, that works fine. And it's very reliable. And again, so we switched over, I think, about a year or two ago. Yes,
it was
much better unit.
Okay.
So we do that. The feed, you don't really have to worry about that freezing because it's just for feed. We'll go over the different types of feed that can be used for different
stages of their life,
right?
Etc.
For sometimes when they're molting, you want to use something that has more calcium in it. We'll get that later.
All right. A couple more building questions.
Sure.
Two more. Construction sand as flooring. Someone wanted to know if that's a good idea or not.
I wouldn't use sand. No, they like soil. If you're gonna I do a mixture of soil and wood chips and things of that type that we like.
Yeah. So the nice thing about the soil is that after maybe a summer, you're actually making your own fertilizer. The sand is just gonna become
cake.
It's gonna be. They're very they usually need a water outside, and between them splashing the water everywhere and knocking the water over and their business, the sand will become a mess very quickly. The dirt is much better for keeping it nice and clean for them.
Soil with the wood chips.
As well as dust bathing.
Right.
For them.
They like to do dust
bathing. They need that. That's a very essential part for them.
Right.
And sand doesn't get that.
Sand
you can mix sand in, but not solid sand.
We've mixed a few bags.
We mix sand in, but you can't use solid sand.
No, we can't. No, it wouldn't work. I wouldn't recommend that at all.
Okay, thank you. And one last is, someone wants to know if you should locate the coop in the sun or the shade, or does it matter?
I would try to keep it, you should have some shade.
So you should have some shade.
Mm-hmm.
However, they do need to see the sun because they decide when to lay their eggs off of how much sun they're receiving. Because the way it actually works in the winter, they lay less because there's less daylight hours.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're in complete shade, their bodies will not produce as many eggs.
Right.
So they do need some shade.
Right, but in the summer, I would say place it in a place where there's some shade, partial shade.
Or even if you have to have artificial shade for them.
But there should be shade.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. So those are the building questions. So I'll
And if there's more questions, please, we'll answer whatever. But we'd like to do the breeds if we can.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, let me get this. Let's get the those pictures open. All right, and I'm let me. Where's the first one? Yeah, let me. What happened? It doesn't get them all.
So you need to redo it.
Let's see. Oh,
There it is.
okay, there's the first. All right, so I'm going to do the split the screen again. Share screen. Share the screen. Okay, and I'm going to turn it over to you. Okay, and there you go. And you can tell all about how we got them.
So, hello. So the chickens are, getting chickens, it's a lot easier than it used to be because it's become a much more common hobby. For a while, it kind of sunk into obscurity, but more and more people who live in the suburbs are becoming interested in this. So what I would recommend if this is your first time doing chickens is definitely the hatcheries. You can't guarantee the quality is in showing quality or even bloodline quality, but for a first timer, it's the best way to ensure that you're getting very good birds without having to know a lot. They're usually certified by the USDA for things such as avian influenza vaccines, etc. They'll offer them to you for a very small charge. And they usually have very good variety. And it's fairly inexpensive, with chicks costing between maybe $1 to $3 depending on rarity of the breed. And you can even be able to buy full-sized pullets. So chickens, female chickens, which are about 20 weeks old, for $20 to $30 a piece plus shipping. And it's a very good resource right off the bat. So in this picture, you see that we opted to do pullets our first time. It's a little more direct. Raising chicks is very hard for a first timer. You usually lose some, so the pullets are a much better
How old are the
solution.
pullets again?
So pullets are about 20 weeks old. I'm not sure if I said it. 15 to 20.
15 to 20 weeks old.
And so what we did was we ordered, I believe it was 8, and they shipped them in, these boxes that say live birds overnight.
From where was that?
From Idaho.
Idaho.
So the distance is not a real factor, only if you live in Hawaii or Alaska, but because of where we are, I don't think that's a problem for anyone. So they'll overnight them. The shipping's a little steep, but
because you have to pay a federal tax on livestock transportation.
It's a little harsh, but it's worth it. So they come in the boxes. The post office calls you. You pick them up, and they're not happy, but there's no problem for them in terms of comfort. It's as roomy as it can be for a shipping box. So then you bring them back to your coop the first time. You let them out. They won't be thirsty. They're usually not that thirsty. They'll be a little hungry because they usually don't have anything to eat for the shipping period because it would just make the box messy. So they'll eat, they'll drink, and then one thing which I want to note here, which will scare some people. I know that we've met a few people who are scared by this. As soon as they're out of the boxes, they're going to start fighting. However, chickens they care a lot about their pecking order and who's the boss, and they care very much about this order, this hierarchy, and you're just going to have to let it happen. They're usually not violent. They're not going to hurt each other.
Pretty quick.
And it's over pretty quick. It's over fairly quick.
Mm-hmm.
So, but once that happens, maybe after 2 or 3 hours of beating each other up on and off, they figured out their problems.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see 20 weeks old in this picture, 15, 20 weeks old. I'm not quite sure because every breed was raised separately. And you can see they're not quite fully developed, but they're about 75% of the way there. One thing to note is on the flooring of the coop, we're using wood shavings. We didn't have straw in this shot. We do recommend a mixture of straw and wood shavings. And we do recommend wood shavings for the roost box. However, be sure not to put cedar shavings. You see those a lot for rabbits, and the cedar can have a very bad effect on the chicken's respiratory systems. They can't process it, even though it smells good. It will cause a lot of problems down the road and will lead to death for them due to clogging their legs. So the pine is available at Tractor Supply for $5 a bale, and it's just safer for them. So. And then you can see the feeder in the water. This is a 30-gallon feeder, and then the 5-gallon water. They're more than you'll ever need, especially if you live there. Like we said before, we're from New Jersey, but the farm's in New York, about an hour apart. So that allows for about 5 to 6 days of food if you want to really stretch it. However, we check it every 3. I would recommend if you live there every day.
Every day.
So I'm just gonna go on now. I guess I'll talk about breeds before I move on with the pictures. So for most people, I'm not sure, but most people we know prefer brown eggs. So some of the easiest breeds, and I guess I would say the best breeds for a beginner would include breeds such as, you can see the two golden buff Orpingtons. They are a very calm bird. They're a fairly large bird. However, they're good with children. They're a little more settled, a little more calm. They'll become a little friendlier. You also have the barred rock, again, very friendly. It's easy on you. They're very common. Then you see right here the Americana. Now this chicken is actually very interesting. They lay those beautiful blue-green eggs, you see, those greenish blue eggs, and they're quite funny. Some of them have beards, and again, they're a very simple breed, very friendly breed, and they're a great breed to start off with. I would probably say stick with these rather than going on to white egg layers, as white egg layers genetically tend to be much flightier and much more hostile.
A little aggressive.
They're lighter, they can fly better. It's much harder for a beginner. So then we'll move on to another chicken you should not buy right off the bat. This is Bertha. She is Asian. She's an Asian breed, originating in China, called the Langshan. And right now she is about 3 years old and she weighs 15 pounds. And she was not even fully grown in this picture. Friendly, but would not recommend for beginners. They're quite intimidating when you first look at them.
Very gentle.
Very gentle, but they eat a lot.
Yes.
So then one thing which I found when I was doing this when I was younger, and it's great if you can, is showing. Chicken showing still is alive. It's actually alive and well. It's in a better state today than it has been. The shows this year obviously have been canceled due to all these tragic conditions we're in right now, but it's really great for kids and adults. This is a picture. I was fairly successful at competition with the birds. This is a picture of one of my Welsummers. They're a very good breed, a little nervous though, named Dymphna. They lay a beautiful copper egg, by the way. It's quite striking. It's
very dark copper.
It's the color of copper, very dark copper. So you probably have never seen anything like it. It's quite amazing. But the shows are very nice. I would actually recommend if you are thinking of buying chickens going to a show, there's a lot of people there who will give you advice. You can really see the birds up close.
You get a good selection to buy birds. Then you get a good deal on them.
Well, the thing is so if you know what you're doing, it's a great spot to buy birds. However, you have to be very careful because it's not regulated, so to speak. So a lot of people, you want to know what to ask or why are they selling it. So I would recommend staying with the hatcheries. However, once you know a bit, this is a very good spot. You just have to be careful because
Who are you buying it from?
yeah, not everyone's perfect. The one exception to that would be at the state fair when the state actually sells birds there.
Well, they're not the state,
but the state people.
They have the veterinarian.
Yeah, but
make sure all.
No, but those are run by the people who run the show. Right. So you have to. Those are good, but otherwise, you have to be careful buying them from random people. So now I'm gonna talk about one bird that we got through a feed store. So this was Gemma. This is Gemma, and this is a picture of her when she's about 8 or 9 weeks old. So she was the runt of the hatch, and every bird in the store had been sold but her. However, as you can see, she had a wounded wing. She was picked on so much that her wing was actually damaged, and the blue is actually medicine. That's not blood or anything. And so they put the blue. It's supposed to stop picking, but it doesn't work very well. So she was with the rabbits, and she was very messed up. She probably if she had just stayed there, she probably wouldn't have lived.
She would have died.
So she needed to be cared for. So she cost us $5. Yeah, $5.
We'll take her.
And we'll take her for $5. So we decided to nurse her. She didn't need intensive care. She needed where she wouldn't get beat up. And the thing is, chickens, once they see blood, they'll become more aggressive. So she really needed to be alone. However, this is a picture of her at about 30 to 35 weeks old. And she fully recovered. And I mean, but it's a nice story, but again, I would not recommend doing this right off the start because you don't know what you're getting.
Well, we saw her there. She was all by herself. And
yeah, I mean,
we'll take her.
It's emotional.
We'll take her.
So before we go on with the show, and I've been talking about all the different colors of eggs that you can obtain from having your own chickens, which is actually one of the most satisfying parts of it. And so here you can see those beautiful, right in the top right-hand corner and in the middle left, you can see those beautiful green eggs I was discussing. And the rest of the eggs are actually from all egg layers, but the shades are quite different due to the fact that they're all different breeds. And we've had a few people say they're like Easter eggs without being dyed because they're quite interesting to look at.
They are. Some of them are really good sometimes.
And some of them will have speckles on them. It's quite beautiful, actually. So then let's move on. This was the first show I ever did. This was the Sussex County State Fair, the first 2 birds I ever entered, and my first wins. The State Fair is a great spot to go look at chickens for a first time, or to show for a first time.
They have about 600 entries, right?
It's about 600. It's very nice because they do a lot for the kids. They encourage the competition for the juniors, which is nice. And it's not the most official show, but it's great experience, and it's great to just go look. A lot of times the owners will talk to you, let you pet the birds. It's really a great way to really see if you're interested in buying birds. So for the next picture, one thing I want to emphasize is that chickens are headstrong to the max. They're very about not giving up or showing weakness. So this was one of our nesting boxes, and this went on for 4 hours. Both birds were going to nest in that box and lay their egg, whether the other one was there or not. And we actually, unfortunately, we don't have a picture, but there was one time where 3 of them tried to jam in. They're very
4 boxes.
and no, there are 4 boxes, but they only use one. They only use one consistently. 3. We stopped putting hay in 3 of them because they just don't use them. Now, one thing which is important to mention, I'm going to mention it now, is molting. This is going to happen once a year, maybe twice a year, where the chicken's feathers fall off before they grow out new ones, and they look very strange. However, you can't just to a certain degree, they will take care of it themselves. However, one thing I do recommend is you have to change feeds. So usually they're being fed a layer pellet, which has 16% protein. However, making the feathers takes a great toll on their body. They're going to stop laying, so you want them to molt as quickly as possible. I would recommend going to your feed store and buying Purina Feather Fixer, which has 18% protein, as well as some other added calcium, a few other things they need for their bodies to regrow their feathers as quickly as possible. And we didn't think it was going to make a big difference, but we tried it, and I cannot emphasize how much it really makes a difference for them. It's a great toll on their body, and their productivity goes down so much. I can't emphasize the amount of change.
It does make a big difference. It does go quicker.
And their feathers are luscious afterwards. If you use the feed, it's very good and very important. Are some of the pictures missing? Because numbers are skipped.
Yeah. You might have to go back individually and do it. Just close that and go back to the.
Close this.
Yeah, close that and go back to the ones you think you're.
Okay, so just the sharing for the moment.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Dad, I guess. I don't know.
No, so click on here. Which picture did you miss?
Anything over 80, go to 87. I think that's where I might have started missing.
No.
Yeah, that's what we were
You
missing.
want to show that one?
Let's just take everything from 88 to 97.
88 to 97. Let me hit shift here. 88 to 97, right?
Yes, I believe that those are the ones I was missing. It's very strange.
Yeah,
Skip them.
Okay, all right. That should be them.
No, it's skipping.
You might have to do the one.
I might just do them individually.
Yeah, you can start.
There it is. Thank you.
Go to share screen again.
Yeah.
Let's go to share screen. And you select the screen you're sharing. Okay, back to here we are. Okay. We're back. Okay, that's the show.
So this is the show. I think this is the day of.
Is that setting up?
No, this looks like the day of. There's a lot of people. And all the birds are there. So the shows, as strange as this sounds, are the same as dog shows. There's different classes: American, Asian, European, different classes where the breeds came from. And then on top of that, there's also the ducks and the pigeons, the geese. And the judges are certified by the American Poultry Association. And you really, as crazy as this sounds, there are people who have paid, who will pay upwards of $1,000 for a chicken, which sounds a little crazy, but people do get into it.
Some of these people, they come from Massachusetts, different places, and some of them actually have little baby carriages. They're like for their top show hen. It's amazing.
Some people get a little too into it, but it's a really good experience. I will emphasize that right off the bat. You can't. It's a great day. So then, this was one of my roosters. He was old. He was 6 or 7. No, he was 8 when he passed. But Gus, he was actually a very good showbird. Very, very beautiful. And actually, he was a bantam single-combed leghorn. And that brought me, that's why I want to bring up what bantams are. Bantams are really a great way if you have maybe a smaller yard or you're worried about the chicken being a little too large right off the bat. They are a chicken which you can, they're perfectly scaled chicken. Their bodies are perfectly scaled, but they are half the size of a normal chicken. Their eggs are half the size of a normal chicken egg. They have their own categories, it shows, and they're very friendly. They're a great hobby, and they're a great way to get into it if you're just a little intimidated by the size. So he was maybe half the size of the other hens I showed you pictures of, but he was a chicken. They come from the island of Bonton in the Pacific Ocean. That's where they originated, and over time they've brought it so that most conventional poultry breeds are bantams now. You can buy bantams from most breeds. And they're a fun way to get into it. They really are, and they're beautiful. So then, here's a picture of me. This was after one of my biggest wins, where I would go all the way to champion large fowl of the Sussex County Poultry Fancier Show, which was my longest run. So, and I mean, it's actually very competitive, which is surprising. You wouldn't think it is, but it is. People drive 10 plus hours. It's a little. Some people are very into it.
And some people have the medals that they've won and the ribbons plastered all over the dashboards of their cars.
Yeah, there's people who like it. Like, I guess people like us who like it and will try, and then there's people whose lives are now it's their religion. It's their religion. This is another picture. This is actually a rare breed. This is a Buckeye. They're a breed that was originated in Ohio. However, after World War II, with a lot of emphasis switching to production over variety, they nearly went extinct. However, the breed was restored, and there's a very limited number, but they are still alive. Luckily, only I think 2 chicken breeds have been lost in the 20th century due to mass farm. Champion American, and then maybe even reserve champion that show. I'm not sure. Now back to the bantams. Pictures are a little out of order, I think. It's unfortunate. This is actually the same breed as the rooster I showed, the feathering. They're one of the few chicken breeds where the rooster and the hen have extremely different feathering. This is Philly. She's also old. She's 6. They're very tame, as you can see, and they'll sit on your arm, and she'll talk to you. They're very tame, and like I said, they're a great gateway. They don't eat very much. They're very fun. They're a nice way to get into it. And then here's one other breed which I thought is very striking, might be interesting, is the Speckled Sussex. Very common, very hardy, very good producers, and they're one of the flashier breeds you can get that are very common. They're very. This one's actually my friendliest chicken currently.
They have a big personality.
Big personality, very nosy.
Very nosy.
However, their one problem is that they're very aggressive to new chickens. It can be a problem. However, it's as long as you're not adding chickens every day, it's not going to affect you that much.
No.
So then that feeder, for the record, is taller than any of my other chickens, and they can only eat out of the bottom. However, Bertha is so large, she eats out of the top when the lid is not on. So it's a little strange. Very, very large, very intimidating, but very friendly. And her eggs are very large, for the record. So I guess one thing I want to talk about now for a minute, which is very good.
Switch back.
Okay, I got to switch back. I'm going to stop sharing.
And then you can show the movies later if you want. Stop sharing. Then you can hold up the different books and the publications.
Yeah.
And
So
again, Rosemary, we will send a list to you so that you can share with everybody of the magazines, publications, books, and anything that we have, material that we have, as well as just resources for where we would recommend to buy a lot of things. Tractor
Okay.
Supply is a great resource for feed and for accessories, watering trays, watering feed tray, everything.
Everything but the coops. Tractor
Everything but the
Supply
coops, they
doesn't
have.
really do well with the coops,
No.
but everything else they
Everything else
really
they
can
have.
help you. Medication, everything.
Medication, whatever you
Tractor
need.
Supply would really recommend.
Yes.
So I guess we'll just briefly go over the different materials.
Make sure you hold it, then you can
Yes.
see it good.
So we're fortunate that chickens have become much more popular in the last 10 to 15 years than they ever were in terms of the public eye. So first off, I'll go with one of the hatcheries, Murray McMurray. I'm sorry if the image is not the greatest, but this is one of the hatcheries, and they'll do everything with you from the chicks to the chickens. Very good source, and like we said, we'll send the links for all this so that you can obtain it. I would recommend Murray McMurray. That's my first choice. They're very good. They have amazing amounts of variety. Anything from the most common chickens to some of the crazy
The rarest
ones.
breeds, yes.
Not rarity so much as interesting ones,
Interesting.
such as the Polish with the puffy
The puffy
heads. Or
The puffy headers.
they do a good job. They do a very good job.
There are some interesting looking chickens out there that I
There
didn't,
are.
until I started going to the shows. I didn't even know they existed. Some of them, you're like, what is this? You're like, what went wrong with the experiment? You know, it's like,
Yeah.
it's like
The ones that fur.
Fur.
There's even an Oriental breed called Silkies where their feathers are almost more like fur
Like
than
hair.
feathers. It's very
it's
strange.
amazing.
They can't fly or do anything or even stay outside. But so there are a few books. This one helped me out in the beginning when I was first learning about chickens. It has some basic stuff. I wouldn't recommend it more than for a beginner, but it's nice to learn a little bit about the breeding, the predators, etc. This one on the other hand is very deep. The Chicken Health Handbook. This has about every ailment that that chicken will ever get,
Right.
and it's by Gail Zamero. Very knowledgeable source. It's great. However, I'm going to say this: you read it too much, you're going to start looking at your chickens, and you're going to be very worried the whole time. One other thing I would recommend is you can't always buy the feeders and waters you want from local stores, and that's why Randall Berkey comes to
they're a
mind.
big supplier.
They don't do anything with feed or coops, but they will work with you for everything from where to buy they'll do limited chicks, but they everything from incubators, the brooders, nesting boxes, medication, feeding, egg cartons, even more books.
Right.
And it's really great. And then last but not least, I just wanted to talk about for a minute the magazine. I don't know if anyone knows Countryside. It's a magazine that's based upon it's a country based upon self-sufficiency and farming, and they have their own branch which they do called Backyard Poultry. I have one of the magazines, and then also one of the anthologies.
The anthologies they put out.
That they put out every once in a while.
And the anthologies are very good because every few years they put that out of all the best stories that were in the magazine.
I would actually probably recommend buying anthologies.
Anthology would be better.
The one thing I like, the one thing which the magazine is very good, but the one problem is that you get a lot of people who it's not so much practical advice as it is, people who built, the 4-floored palace for their chickens with custom windows. Some people get very into it.
Some people get very into it.
But it's good. It's a good source, and it really can help you in the beginning.
Did you want to show a couple of the small films?
Yeah, and then we have a few small films, including one product which I want to talk about, which is very good for backyards.
Oh, we're gonna have to stop the share, right? Okay. Oh no, I gotta go back in.
You gotta open it.
Yeah, where is it?
At the bottom.
Start with this one. Oh yeah, we want to show the.
I can do this one first.
Okay, let's. Where is that? Is that it?
I think that's it, right? Yeah.
Yes. Okay, and then share it, and you can talk a little bit about that. Okay, good.
So I guess I'm just gonna do this little video. It's more of a cute video than anything else. These were 3 chicks I actually bought through a friend. They ordered. The one problem with hatcheries is when you buy chicks is you have to buy a minimum order for them to keep the heat for the chicks to survive. So you have to buy 25 usually, maybe a little less now. But it's a problem if you don't want that many. So my friends let me piggyback 3 with them since I didn't need many. So this is just a little video showing how you integrate them, and you let the chickens gradually become used to them by putting them with the young ones. However, the integration with these 3 was not bad because they were young and they were accepted as a result. So I'm just going to play the video. It's only 17 seconds. But it's just funny. There's no no educational value.
No, but we put one large hen in with them,
Yeah.
and that's where they get to see. They get to be.
I'm not sure if it's lagging on everyone's ends. I'm sorry if it is.
How old were they at that point?
They would have been maybe 10 weeks old. That's it.
10 weeks old.
So
That's that one.
that's that one. Now the other one actually has a lot more value in my mind. It's right at the bottom. This one's about a product which has a funny name. It's called the Peckinpah, and to describe it, it's kind of
Playpen.
it's a playpen for chickens. It's actually very good though. It covers them with this mesh right here, and the top is covered as well, and it makes it so that you can maybe let them out of the coop. It's great for smaller yards if you don't want them just wandering your yard or leaving your yard, and you can move it every day so that they're not going to destroy. That you're not going to destroy anything. There's no bottom, so they actually can forage. It's nice. It's a very nice thing. It worked well for yards just because it makes sure they don't wander or anything, and you can move it.
And it folds up really well.
And it's just cloth really with some wire frame. It's very light, so it's great. The Peckinpah. And that's available through most of the retailers that I mentioned. Probably won't have it online, but you probably Randall Berkey, Murray McMurray, etc. Yeah. So I'm just gonna kind of play it, and it's just a good way for them to forage.
Yes,
and then I'm not sure if it's lagging on everyone's end.
It's pretty big, right?
It's fairly spacious,
yeah.
and it really gives them that outdoor element because
and they're protected too.
They're protected from predators, and at the end of the day, they need to get the bugs. They need to forage because at the end. So one thing I just also want to mention now that I said bugs is that chickens are omnivores. So when you see vegetarian fed on a carton, that just means they were inside and they never got the forage. That's actually not a good thing at all for a chicken. It's very unhealthy. So it's good because it lets them fulfill their hunting instincts because they are omnivores. So
and what they'll do is they'll go for worms and they'll eat a lot of ticks. That's the one thing about the chickens. You won't have a tick problem if you have chickens. They really take care of any ticks in the area. Because
it's amazing. It's very good.
They're very good. One of the things I wanted to touch upon too is that again, going back to building a coop or buying a coop, don't let that intimidate you. Just go to again, I'll give a list of good sources that I like, and if you do have the wherewithal to build one, you can go online. There are so many plans, and there's so many different people have so many different ways. Again, I found the one that I like. I can send Rosemary I can send the plans that I made my own, and I'd be happy to share those with anybody who's interested.
And if you're really were even that intimidated, if you're only keeping 3 or 4 because you're in a suburban town, you can even use a rabbit hutch.
A rabbit hutch is
very easy.
Just put a little ramp on
very easy.
And the nesting boxes, you don't have to build them, you can buy them.
You buy both wooden prefab and metal ones.
Or metal ones. And they can get as 2 to 4, they stack.
2 to 4 to 24.
24. So it's very interesting. And it is a great, it's very rewarding because going out in the morning and getting the fresh eggs, that's what it's all about. It's a lot of fun.
And they are funny. They're not going to be your dog. They're not going to learn their name. They're pretty dumb, but they are friendly to a certain degree, and they do learn. They do like you, and they will let you pet them, and they will perch on your arm, and they are funny.
Right. The little one that Anthony had on his arm, when I was in the greenhouse watering, she would sit on my shoulder while I was watering the greenhouse.
They do become fairly friendly. Yeah.
She just loved to perch. So you can have somewhat of a relationship with them, and but we're talking here about layers. But there's a whole other hobby where if you want meat birds, and that's a whole different ballgame. But we don't do that. So, but meat birds, the coops would be completely different. You wouldn't need
much simpler.
You wouldn't need nesting boxes.
You wouldn't need anything for the cold weather.
For cold weather, because by the end of the season they're going to be butchered. So it's a whole different thing. But we don't do that.
They're layers.
They're layers. We like the layers, and we like to show them. Did you have that one picture you wanted to show of Gemma with the waddles and the? Did you show that
I
picture?
think I did. Yeah.
Okay. So Anthony, tell them how you prepare them for the show.
So showing, I mean, it's like I said, it's like a dog show. It's like a mini dog show, or some cases bigger than a dog show. However, I mean, some people go very over the top and they give them complete baths and they blow dry them and then they scrub their feet, let them live in the house for 3 days, give them their own room and then adopt them. But then some people, it's you have to clean their feet, you have to clean their comb and their waddles, because that's usually what they'll get dirty. Maybe if it's a white chicken, keep them out of the pen for a day or two. Maybe don't let them in the dirt. But they're fairly clean on their own. I have to say that they are very clean on their own. You don't have to worry about it. And actually, one thing I want to make clear is washing them actually can have some very negative effects. A lot of their own maintenance is based upon the natural oils that are in their feathers. And if you wash out the oils, you're actually going to be causing more problems for them than if they just were clean themselves. The dust bathing, even though it looks like it does nothing, it does an amazing amount of cleaning for them.
Right. They do. The dust bathing, they love to dust bathe.
And it's still good for them.
Right, and it keeps the ticks,
it's very important.
Parasites off, and it keeps their coats nice and shiny.
There was even, I believe, in one of the anthologies, did a thing where he talked about building indoor dust bathing for in the winter when they were stuck inside because it's so important for them. But yeah, dirt, sand, maybe a little ash. They do a little wood ash.
If
That's very nice.
If you have a fireplace, it's good to mix a little bit of the ashes in the soil in your coop because that helps them too. And we give them, and living at the farm during the summer, they eat a lot of
fresh fruits,
fresh fruit and vegetables.
Anything that's rejected,
Anything
really.
that's rejected, we will cut a zucchini in half and we'll throw it in there. And they're like piranhas. They'll clean it right out.
And they'll do the skin left.
Just the skin.
Or any tomatoes which are rejected for blemishes or maybe a touch of rot. They'll eat those. They'll clean those. They'll be gone.
Right. So any greens.
And that just helps their health.
Their health. It builds up builds up the strength of the eggshell and the yolks. You can see the difference.
The yolks are really where you see the difference.
Where you really see the health. A lot of eggs that you buy in the store will tend to be very watery and very runny. Not the case here. They all are nice and tight, and they hold together really well.
The egg is really a reflection of their diet and their lifestyle.
Their diet and their health. Exactly.
So it really, you can usually sadly tell what the chickens, the eggs you buy in the supermarket, what the chickens lived like, and that's one of the things you really notice when you buy farm fresh eggs is that vigor that you see in the egg.
And the taste.
And the taste is much better.
Much more superior.
And one other thing I want to mention is that feed, I'm not sure, we probably have a Tractor Supply by you, but the feed, there's feed, so there's feed for when they're chicks and there's feed for when there's layers. It's just the protein levels vary. They need higher protein when they're young for development. However, I would not recommend buying, the cheapest feed. Maybe buy something Purina is what I'd say is the best. It has they put a lot of oyster shell in the feed, which is actually very nice for hardening the eggshells. It's one of the reasons why our eggshells are so good. A lot of extra calcium in those.
Use a natural feed.
Yeah, natural also really does help the quality.
It's a little more, a couple $, more, but it's definitely worth it for the animal.
But they're very inexpensive. But the feed is also, it's pretty inexpensive, much cheaper than dog or cat food, I will say that.
You will get a 50-pound bag for about $20 on the high end.
On the high end, yeah, we pay $16.99 now for very good feed,
for
natural.
Yes, it's called Laina.
Laina pellet.
Pellet is far superior than crumble. There's a lot more waste in crumble. Crumble where it's all broken up. Get the pellets. The pellets work better.
One of the problems is that they're horribly sloppy eaters. That's one thing they're very bad at, and they'll throw it. So the nice thing is the pellets stay intact and they'll eat them at a later date. But once the crumble's on the floor, it's just mush, and they're never going to touch it again. So very important.
So we do that, and again, keeping the coop clean.
Cleanliness is one thing you have to emphasize.
We'll go to another farm. We'll buy a hay bale for $5 or $6, and we'll change the hay every once in a while. We'll shovel it out. You put everything in the wheelbarrow, take it back to our little mini orchard, and dump everything in a pile there.
No, but I was also going to say with keeping it clean, it really helps with their health. One of the things I have a few friends who don't keep chickens very well. There's a lot of problems with foot problems, a lot of sores that because if you're standing on manure, you're gonna have a problem after a while.
Mhm.
A lot of unexpected deaths, a lot of parasites.
Parasites.
The cleanliness is one of the largest answers
Mhm.
to keeping yourself clean. And one thing I also want to say is, if you're sharing things between two flocks that aren't living together, you definitely want to make sure they're sterile so that parasites aren't transferring.
That's
You
right.
want to make sure that they stay as clean as possible, because you're eating it and you're eating their eggs in
They're
turn.
eating their eggs.
So you want to keep the food as clean for you.
And the thing too is that you're doing a good job when you open the chicken coop and it doesn't smell of anything. Then you're doing a good job. Because a lot of people think, oh, that chicken smell. If you smell that chicken smell,
It's bad.
if you're not keeping it, it's not clean.
Especially when there's a bad ammonia smell, that's when
Yes.
you really have to worry.
So we pride ourselves on keeping it.
And the nice thing is if you keep it clean, they aren't an eyesore. They aren't going to disturb your neighbors.
Nope.
They're very easy.
Yeah, you won't have to worry unless you have a rooster. Then you might have a problem
with your neighbors. But the
but
nice thing is they don't need a rooster
They
to
don't need a
live.
rooster. No.
You can keep 3 or 4 hens. They'll never see a rooster in their lifetime, and they'll be perfectly fine.
Absolutely.
They'll be as productive as ever. So
Absolutely.
it's very good.
It is very good. It's
Very easy. Very quiet.
It's good. Like Anthony said, Anthony's been doing this since 2015 when he was 12 years old. 11 years old he started. And he joined the Sussex, I'll give the link on that too, Sussex County Poultry Fanciers Association. And they have a show, 2 or 3 shows.
Sadly, they're all canceled.
Everything's
because of
canceled this
COVID.
year because of the COVID. And Anthony will do the state fair. But there are traveling fairs. You can go to other counties. Morris County has a great fair. Orange County has a good fair. I'm sure Rockland County has a fair as well for poultry and poultry shows. You just have to look around. And they are really interesting and they're a lot of fun because you have people selling all the accessories there as well. And you can get the feed there. They give out a lot of feed samples. It's kind of like a nice festival. It's just a lot of fun. And you get to see all the different types of hens. You get to watch the judges, how they do their job, how they have to check every chicken for everything. And they take all these notes and it's a really serious hobby.
A lot more serious than you think it would be on the
Yes,
surface.
yes. And
People are very serious about it.
people really enjoy it. I know before we started doing it, we knew very little bit
I
about
don't
it.
even know it exists.
We
as a
didn't even know
culture,
it existed. And the nice thing I like about when we go to Sussex County Fair, before you even bring the birds in for testing or anything, the veterinarian from the state is there to check to make sure the birds are not misused or abused in any way or not undernourished or malnourished. And then they would report you and they won't let you into the fair. So right off the bat, there's a safeguard right at the beginning.
And then on top of that, before any shows, they are tested for avian influenza.
Yes.
So you're sure that it's clean. They're clean birds. So it's a very good right off the bat. It really is. When it's done correctly, chickens are a very clean hobby. No different than a dog.
No
different than a dog.
different than a dog.
Not as smart, but no different.
And then a lot less maintenance. You really don't have to worry about them.
You don't have to walk the chicken. That's
No.
nice. They do that themselves.
They're kind of there, But we open up to any questions you have for Anthony and I. We're ready to answer anything that we can help you with.
Yeah, we got a bunch of questions.
Good.
Someone wanted to know if you need to build, this is related to building a separate area for dust bathing.
Yes and no. You have to provide them with the dirt and everything, but to a certain degree, the chickens are going to do what they want where they want it. They're not gonna just go in an area and dust bathe. They're gonna go whatever weird spot hits their fancy. So as long as they have the spot, the space, and the materials, they'll figure that out themselves. You don't have to worry about it.
You can put it all together.
Just give them the appropriate things, and they'll figure it out.
That's what we do.
Okay.
They'll figure it out.
Another person was wondering about treatments for fleas and ticks and parasites, like on the chickens. Like, do you have to take care of them in that respect?
So going back to cleanliness, I'd say cleanliness and making sure that flocks aren't mixing that you don't know about are your best 2 defenses. However, I mean, there are a few powders. There are a few treatments that are very simple. They're just powders. However, that you just would rub the chicken and let them dust bathe in. However, like I said, cleanliness, it really is the best.
The chickens groom each other and they remove the ticks and the fleas from each other.
It's just the mites that you really have to
mites,
be careful.
if you have a
And
mite
worms.
problem, you may have to put a
Mites
little
and worms you have to worry about.
So fortunately,
As long as they stay clean, they really don't
Yes,
attract it.
it's cleanliness. Cleanliness
Cleanliness is
will
the
not
answer.
attract it. And if you do see a mite problem, yes, there are powders you can get.
Something from the drinking water.
Or something if there is worms, you put a couple of drops in the drinking water, and it really works. You know? So.
And those are available through all the retailers. They're pretty
Right.
common. They're not
But
expensive.
Again, the cleaner you keep the coop, the cleaner the happier and healthier the birds are going to be.
Okay, great. Oh, do you have any type of supplements that you recommend or that you feel like the birds need?
So if you're feeding them just feed, then maybe give them some oyster shell. Maybe there's some vitamins you can put in the water. However, I say the best supplement still is giving them those fresh fruits and vegetables.
Table scraps.
Not really, not meats.
Not meats. I was just going to say that. Table scraps in the sense of any type of greens, cucumber skins, fruits, banana skins,
even grass clippings. Those are great.
Apple cores, grass clippings. They love grass clippings as long as the grass wasn't sprayed with any chemicals.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Grass clippings. They love any type of anything that's stuffed over. Let's say you're cutting lettuce in the house and you're cutting celery and you have to stalk certain parts. Throw those in the coop. They love it. Bread. They love bread as long as it's broken up into small pieces. Things of that type. And once in a while we buy those mealworms for them. They like the mealworms. Those give a little protein too.
Yeah, that's more just because they enjoy them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's a supplement.
Mm-hmm.
But the best supplement is really just letting them free range or giving them a lot to enjoy, especially fresh fruits and vegetables. I think that's one of the reasons why our hens are so healthy. Yes. Everything they're eating.
Yes.
Besides the feed.
Yes, besides the feed, we try to supplement as much as we can. In the winter, it's a little harder, but we have the greenhouse going. Sometimes we'll throw things that grow in the greenhouse in the winter, spinaches and things of that type.
Or even just the weeds from the greenhouse.
Weeds from the greenhouse, we take that in with the roots, and then they pick through the roots to look for any kind of slugs or little cutworms, wherever they can find. And they're also looking for little pebbles that they like to have in their crop that helps them to grind up the food. Remember, they don't have teeth, so they have to use the crop to grind up their food before it goes into their esophagus.
So yeah, that's about it. They're pretty. Looks like they might have disappeared.
I'm back.
Did they disconnect?
I think, yeah, I just had
Okay.
I'm back. Sorry. It got it slowed down and then all of a sudden it went off and then it connected again.
Looks like her internet might be going down.
Might be just the Wi-Fi. Oh, someone was asking if different colored eggs actually taste different from each other.
No.
They just look different. There's no taste.
They look different. They taste the same.
The taste between store-bought eggs and eggs that come from our chickens, there is a taste difference, but no difference between the flavors of different chicken eggs.
Even when you make hard-boiled eggs from the homemade eggs, it's completely different from our. Because you have to remember, when you buy the eggs in the store, there's a 3-number code on the box. And that tells you, like it might say 263. That means that those eggs were harvested on the 263rd day of the year. So you have to look that up. And then that just means that's the day they were harvested. They could have sat in those nests for a week or two before they harvested them. So look for those 3-number codes. It goes by the date. So example, if you see the number 001, that means it was picked, those that were picked out of the nest on January 1st. If you see one on 030, January 30th. But that doesn't mean they were laid that day. They could have been laid a week or so before. So it just means they were picked.
And the freshness doesn't make a big difference in taste.
Again, if you don't do anything with the eggs, if you don't wash them with soap and water, you can actually leave the eggs out. You don't have to refrigerate them as long as you haven't refrigerated them. And then you take them out and refrigerate again. You can't do that.
Once they're refrigerated, they have to be refrigerated. But if they haven't, they're fine.
Because they have a protective coating over them that seals out any germs and any kind of bacteria. So that's why if they are fertilized, that's why they will hatch before they will rot. But if you break that membrane by washing them with soap or anything, then you have to refrigerate them. But many people, including ourselves, sometimes we just leave them out on the counter as long as it's ambient temperature, because they were in the nest and they were moved just into the counter, and they'll stay fresh for weeks before you have to refrigerate them.
Someone wanted to know, do you wash the coating before cooking eggs? Do you have to wash them? Do you recommend that?
Not really, unless they're really dirty.
Disgusting.
But most of the times we pick the eggs so often that we really don't have to worry about that.
The coating doesn't affect anything. You don't even see it.
No, but if there is dirt, of course, if the egg it has some waste on it or anything, and you're going to crack it open, you wash that off, because you don't want that to fall into where you're cooking. So before actually opening the egg, if it's dirty, wash it first and then crack it open.
Okay.
But that's rare.
Yeah. Someone wanted to know how long chickens usually live, and if they pass away, like, do you buy replacements? Like, how do you handle all that?
So chickens, on the books, they're supposed to last 7 to 8, maybe 10 years max. If they pass, I mean, some people butcher them for efficiency, right? After about 3 years, they go out of peak productivity, and people butcher them. However, I mean, ours just pass because we do show them. So usually what we'll do is we'll buy new ones, and then you have to integrate them. Like I said, chickens will fight with a new bird to assert dominance. So you just have to be careful. Slowly introduce them using cages so that they can't get at each other too much. And over time, they just accept each other.
They do.
So
Anthony has a good method. What he does is we get a new chicken, we'll keep that one segregated for a while, and then we'll bring her close to let her stay next to the chicken coop, so they get to see her and pick up her scent. And then little by little, we do that. Then we put the actual small crate inside, and they still can't get at her. And then eventually what we do is, once they get really used to seeing that chicken and the scent of that chicken, then we try a little bit of a release.
And they'll be more peaseful than they would have been. You just can't put the chicken in. They'll be violent.
They'll be violent.
Especially if it's especially if it's a new chicken to an existing flock. That's very dangerous.
That's why they say, like, the pecking order is like the most important thing. So if one chicken dies, that's at the middle point of the pecking order, it throws the whole thing off, and then they have to reformulate their whole.
Or if the head dies, that also throws
they have
them
to
off.
start the whole pecking order all over again. So we try to make it as easy as possible for a new entry.
Because they can.
They
They're not as violent as roosters, but hens will hurt each other if you're not careful.
You gotta be careful with them.
Also another person was curious about why you selected chickens to raise as opposed to ducks or geese.
Ducks and geese are a lot more work, and they will cause a lot more of a smell. So ducks and geese, for health, they need water, and they need water to swim in because their feathers need it.
And their feet.
So you have to supply the pool of water. And I mean, if you have a pond, it's not really a problem. But if you have to have an artificial pond, it gets into maintaining the pond. You have to be careful, because then it's going to become disgusting. Right. And ducks and geese, especially ducks, have a very musky smell. Yes. They will create a smell, and their droppings are much more pungent. They will create more of a scene over time, more of a mess. And
you really have, the water source is really important.
And they're much louder.
Their feet can deform if they're not in water enough. So you will do more harm than good.
A lot of responsibility.
They're not as clean as chickens because they're in and out of the water.
And they're noisy.
Muddy, and they're noisy.
Especially geese. Geese are very aggressive about territory. Some people joke that they're the guard dogs of birds. So I have a friend, they live in Warren County, and they had geese. And whenever you pulled up to the house, the geese would start honking. It was really loud. And I mean, it was kind of intimidating.
They're great watchdogs.
But yeah, I mean, but their neighbors were very good. They lived maybe 500 feet on each side from another neighbor, so it was not a problem. However, in a suburb, it's a lot more work.
It is a lot of work.
And they're bigger and more aggressive.
Yes, they're more aggressive.
So, yeah.
Does anyone else? I think that was all the questions from the chat. If anyone wants to unmute themselves, feel free.
There's a few more. There's a few more I see.
Oh, there's a few more? Oh, okay. You guys can look at
them. Be happy to answer.
But people are free to unmute themselves if they want to ask a question.
That's a direct question, that's fine.
Yeah, I'll just unmute everyone and see. Okay. Oh, I know someone wanted to know how many eggs you eat in a month.
We do sell a fair. We eat as many as we would. I guess we maybe eat like a dozen a week, maybe.
Yeah, as many as
But
normal.
we do sell a fair amount. We have a very good customer. He actually owns a restaurant, but he buys the eggs from. We work with him commercially, but he buys the eggs for himself.
Okay. Does anyone have a question they want to ask?
Yes, I do.
Hi, Addison.
Hello. I have a quick question. I have several hens here, and they seem to be molting just a little spot on their back, and they've been doing that for 2 months now. Any suggestions? I like the feather fixer idea, but have any other suggestions on what that could be?
You have a rooster?
No rooster.
Okay. Because roosters can mess up the hens a lot and rip feathers and stuff. But 2 months, and it's just a little spot on their back, you said?
Yeah, just a little spot on their back right before their tail feathers. It's very strange.
It could
And
just
3 chickens out of 6 are doing it.
It could just be. It sounds like their bodies might just need a little help with the protein. The feathers are comprised mainly of protein, so they really do need a lot of help with creating the feathers. So I would just recommend the feather fixer.
Yeah, I would try the feather fixer
because
first.
maybe those 3 had a harsher molt and they're just struggling a little more. That's what it sounds like because they're completely healthy otherwise.
Yeah. As far as I can tell,
It just sounds like they need a little more protein to help them.
Believe me, feather fixer really works. It's
We did
terrific.
it. We did it one year where we didn't. We tried not to use it. It was
a
night and
disaster.
day.
So
Yeah.
once we started using that, what a difference it made. Even now, like their feathers are so. After the molt, of course, we stop it because you don't want to overdo it. But once the new feather, just as they start to molt, we switch to feather fixer, and then when they stop it, the feathers are in, and we stop and go back to the lane.
And they really need the
Right.
help
They
because
really need the help.
it's a big strain on their body. The
Yes.
feathers, it's a lot. So it's I can't recommend it enough.
Yeah, I would try that first. And see where it acts.
Okay. I was suspecting a mite problem, but it
No,
doesn't
because
sound
they
like
would
that.
be on
You'd
the
have
safe
to their feet would be affected. You start
Yes.
seeing sores and stuff.
Yes.
So
Got it.
Yeah, the mites
Great.
would be a little bit more.
I should be more focused on the blood and everything, the feathers.
That's right. Oh, you will.
Hi, this is Hyundai. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. We're first time chicken keepers, and right now we have 4 Easter eggers that are about 6 weeks old, and we're going to transition them to their coop next week. Do you have any advice or things we should look out for to see if we're doing a successful transition from indoors in their, nicely sheltered space to their, first few nights outside without us?
You just want to make sure that their feathers are fully grown in. If you still see down there, might be a little too young. However, I mean, at the end of the day, it's as long as there's not other animals and as long as it's secure and it's out of the wind, there's not much you can do. They're fine. I mean, they're animals, and at the end of the day, they are very self-sufficient.
And they'll be with each other, so.
And that's the best part is
Yeah.
they're very chickens care a lot about that group flock mentality.
That's right.
So when they're together, they'll keep warm together. They're very good about that.
You have the coop you're moving them into, it has everything ready for them, it has a roost, it has all that.
Yes, yep. Everything's
So then they'll be
set
fine.
up.
And it's July, so
Oh, yeah, they'll be perfect.
heat's not going to be a problem.
Just make sure
They'll
you
be
have enough
fine.
ventilation in there. If there's windows, make sure they're open. If there's vents, make sure the vents
Yeah,
are
a good
open.
cross
You
breeze is
don't want
very
it to
important.
overheat. That's the most
In the
important
summer,
thing.
a good cross breeze is
Cross
very good.
breeze is very important. As long as they're secure, no predators can get in because they don't want any stress. After a couple of days, they'll be perfect. They'll be fine. I mean, when we
They'll be enjoying being outside.
yes, they will. They'll love it. And when we first got our first flock, as soon as we released them into that big coop, they were already looking for a spot in the roost.
The
An hour
only
later,
the only thing which puzzled them was when we let them get used to the coop for a few days, but then when we opened the door for the first time, they all didn't understand that they could go out the door. It puzzled them, but
yes,
they got it.
they got it.
as long as they're okay, as long as they're warm
And
and they have
safe
food
and
and they're
predators.
safe, they're
That's it.
fine.
And they'll be fine.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more questions?
Does anyone else have any questions for Anthony?
Is there any?
I don't think there's any. I think the chat is good.
Right. If anybody has anything, we'd be happy to answer. And like I say, by tomorrow, I will have everything to you, Rosemary, as far as the links and publications and whatever we have. Whatever information we can share, we will share.
Great.
Whatever you-
Yeah, I'll make sure as soon as I get it, as soon as I get the your information, I'll just email it out to everybody, because that worked out well last time.
Right, right. I'll put it all together. And again, the resources we know for Coops, that's the other thing I can't emphasize, as Anthony said enough, don't get something that's cheap. I mean, there are some that are put together so badly that a fox will be able to break into it. You know, you want something.
Fox will be able to rip a hole in the wall.
That's right,
It's-
because they use fiberboard. They use all these terrible components.
it's worth the investment.
It's worth the
Even
investment.
if you get a smaller coop,
Smaller coop,
it's
but
very worth the
make sure
investment.
it's
to go
all
coop.
wood and good wire and
Strong wire, that's very important
strong
too.
wire. That's why.
One thing which we've noticed on some pre-made coops, which you might even want to do yourself, which you might want to add on if you have a pre-made. Some of them do not put wire over the windows, but then you can't open the windows because the predators will just go in the window. So I would recommend putting chicken wire over your windows so that you can open and give them that cross
Right.
breeze. Because like we said in the summer, that's
what we
very
did
good
on
for
ours.
them.
We have 2x2 windows that open up, but I put wire, and it wasn't chicken wire, it was the other kind of
With
wire.
hardware cloth, I think.
No, it was like a quarter-inch,
Yeah.
half-inch wire.
It was a little.
And then what I did was I put a frame around it where I screwed so that they can't even remove that wire if they want to.
And that's
So
really,
and
it really
they get the
lets them
cross
in.
breeze through. That's the most important thing. You don't want to overheat them in any sense.
You want
because
to
they are-
give them the ventilation they need without compromising their safety
Yes.
to predators. That's really it.
Exactly. So those are the things that I would say. A good person that makes sheds, a good shed company, a company that does maybe a supplier that supplies a lot of feed, a good feed supplier will also be a good source of where
And
to
then
get
we've
good
also-
coops.
We've also seen some people who, if you don't have a shed guy who maybe it's not in a rural area, buying yourself a nice pre-made shed, they're very well made, and
Yes.
just converting it, putting the roost in, putting the nesting boxes in. That's
Yes.
another great
That's a
alternative.
great
Putting your own
alternative.
run on.
Like you can get yourself a 6x8 or a 6x9 shed.
Just going to a
That's
shed.
what you need.
It's a great
All you have
alternative.
to do is make the cutout for the pullet shut and the ramp, and you put a nesting boxes you can put on the inside,
Because
and the roost
yeah.
you can put on the inside.
And the
That's
building
it.
quality is great, right?
It's
Off.
all wood.
It's very
2x4
great. That's a great
construction.
alternative if you don't want to build.
Absolutely. So there are things like that, and you can just start enjoying them right away.
And I want to remind everyone, let everyone know that I recorded this, so if you have any things you want to review, it's going to be up, the video will be up on our website, the nyacklibrary.org website, by tomorrow, early morning, and you can access it anytime. And Anthony, I will send you links to this video and also the previous one. We're trying to keep a little virtual library of programs.
No, that's